Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all the praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem Rakakwadash. Yahweh is the true name of the Heavenly Father, who this world ignorantly calls God, and Yahweh Shai is the true name of the Heavenly Father's only begotten Son, who this world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. And Rakakwadash is the true name of the Holy Spirit. Rakakwadash meaning spirit, holy in Paleo-Hebrew, and Bahashem is a phrase in the Paleo-Hebrew language meaning in the name, and of course, both the Paleo-Hebrew language. And I want to give double honors unto the apostles and the elders, especially of Great Millstone, who rule and teach the 100% truth well, and shalom unto the hopeful elect. And yeah, of course, Yahweh and Yahweh Shai are the one and only true names that we are to be calling on in these perilous times in order to be eligible to receive salvation. And today, pretty much just want to go into we're not going to have World War III if we're smart. All right, said President Donald Trump. And this was a few months ago, and I did make a video on it before, as well as many other brothers, but I pretty much just want to revisit this and, get a few precepts, but also go into some prophecies that the Lord is using that the Lord's using Trump to help fulfill. All right. And, well, Lord willing, it's edifying. All right, so, let's just start. Okay. Fair use, fair use. All right.
As I said earlier, I intend to be a partner in securing a better future. We're going to be working, you're going to be working with the United States, and we're going to make sure that the Middle East is going to be a safe and secure place. It's a very important place in the world, means so much. There were so many people who said the Middle East, and this has been going for many, many decades. I've read it many times that World War III will begin in the Middle East. It's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. There was a time that you would have thought it could have, but it's not going to happen. There won't be World War III, hopefully at all, but it's not going to start in the Middle East. We're not going to have a World War III if we're smart. There'll never be a World War III. Our work begins.
All right, and you heard it, man. He just said, we're not going to have a World War III if I'm smart, which is, of course, well, wrong, because it's the counsel of the Lord to have World War III happen. Jeremiah 49:20. Therefore, hear the counsel of the Lord Yahweh that he hath taken against Edom, Edom, the so-called white man, and his purposes that he hath proposed against the inhabitants of Teman. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitations desolate with them. All right, so again, in this least of the flock is a small hats. All right, Amalek. Okay, those false Jews, living in the land of Israel right now. Okay, he is going to use, the Lord is going to have the least of the flock draw Esau, Edom out. Really, more specifically here in this case, it's talking about Babylon the Great, America. Amalek is also Esau, Salakia, but really this is talking about Babylon the Great, America. All right, because again, that's Esau's capital. The Lord is going to use the state of Israel to bring Babylon the Great out to World War III. Okay, and you can see it that whenever whenever there's an issue, all right, Babylon the Great is always helping Israel, man. All right, and you could see it through this Iran thing as well, this Iran situation. All right, Israel struck Iran. All right, Iran started striking back. All right, and then you had Israel calling for the U.S.'s help, man, and they came to their aid. All right, but eventually, this is going to lead to the Babylon the Great just getting simply sucked into World War III. Revelation 11:14, the second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. And this is talking about World War II and World War III. All right, so the second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly, man. All right, the third world war is coming quickly, man, and you cannot escape it. Proverbs chapter 21:1. I believe I forgot. No, I didn't forget something. All right. In fact, actually, I'm gonna skip to Zephaniah 3:8. Therefore wait ye upon me, saith the Lord Yahweh, until the day that I rise up to the prey. For my determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms, to pour upon them mine indignation, even all my fierce anger. For all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy. Okay? So, again, it's the Lord's determination to gather the kingdoms, to pour upon them mine indignation. All right? To gather them unto that third world war, into that in that valley of Yahweh Shaphat. Okay, in the Levant region, which is, of course, in the Middle East. All right. Let's go into the word determination. Judgment, justice, ordinance, judgment. Decision, right, privilege, due, execution of judgment, sentence, decision of judgment. All right, so his decision, man, to judge, govern, vindicate, punish. Okay, so it's the Lord's decision to, bring forth that World War III, to have all these nations, including America, gathered in that Levant region so that he may judge them. Okay, and Trump cannot stop that. Because guess why? Because the Lord controls him. Yeah, that's right. Free will is not a part of the Bible, man. All right, Proverbs 31:1. The king's heart is in the hand of the Lord Yahweh. As the rivers of water, he turneth it whithersoever he will. So the king's heart is in the hand of the Lord. Whatever the Lord wants the king to do, including the king of Babylon, Donald Trump, well, he's gonna do it. They're gonna do it. Okay, they can't stop it. All right, you know, and no matter what they do, the Lord is always in control. Proverbs 19:21. There are many devices in a man's heart, nevertheless, the counsel of the Lord Yahweh thou shalt stand. And that where devices goes into their plans, their thoughts. So there's many devices in a man's heart. There's many plans and thoughts. But what the Lord wants, that's always going to stand, man. All right, you can't change it. Okay. In the NOT, you can make many plans, but the Lord Yahweh will, but the Lord's purpose will prevail. Okay. So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what Trump wants. It doesn't matter what Esau Edom wants, what anybody other than the Lord wants, because his will always make it through. All right. Way of man, not. Jeremiah 10:23. O Lord Yahweh, I know that the way of man is not in himself. It is not in man that walketh to direct his steps. So it's not man that walketh to direct his steps. It's the Lord, and the Lord is pretty much having Esau, having Babylon the Great America and Trump fall into a trap, man. Okay, Jeremiah 50 and Jeremiah 50 and see. 23. How's the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? Babylon the Great is known as the hammer of the whole earth, man. All right, and you can see it through the things it's done. All right, cut asunder and broken. How has Babylon become a desolation among the nations? Because that's the end result for Babylon, and that's going to happen at the end of World War III. That's why Trump doesn't want World War III. Okay. I have laid a snare for thee, and thou art also taken, O Babylon, and thou wast not aware. Thou art found, and also caught, because thou hast striven against the Lord Yahweh. All right. So the Lord laid a snare for Babylon the Great, man. All right, and you can see that Babylon the Great is falling into that snare. The Lord Yahweh hath opened his armory, and hath brought forth the weapons of his indignation. For this is the work of the Lord, power of hosts, in the land of the Chaldeans. Okay, and that armory is those nuclear missiles, man. Because at the end of the day, Babylon the Great will be, at the end of this age, at the end of World War III, Babylon the Great will be eliminated. Via nuclear missiles. Okay. So again, and again, the Lord is using Trump to really help bring World War III even closer. All right, because again, you have Trump speaking very proudly, very boldly against the Russians. All right, and I'm talking about striking Iran, in which, let's see, Ezekiel 38. Russia is prophesied to be a guard unto Iran. And the word of the Lord Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and prophesy against him, a.k.a. Russia. All right, this is talking about modern-day Russia. And say, Thus saith the Lord power, Behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth in all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. All right, and this is the point, okay? Because what's this got to do with Trump? Well, you'll see. Persia, well, really, it doesn't have to be Trump, all right? But this is really just prophecies that the Lord is using Trump to fulfill, all right? Or help fulfill, okay? Because it may not be Trump that fights World War III, but really, it's not like it necessarily matters, all right? The Lord's still using him to fulfill prophecy, all right? And to bring it closer. Ezekiel 38:5. Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet, Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarmah, of the north quarters, and all his bands, and many people with thee. Okay, all right, but be thou prepared, and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. So the significance of this is that Persia is Iran, and Russia is prophesied to be a guard unto Iran. And of course, you've seen Trump talk about striking Iran, making plans for it, doing this and that. So, when he does that, man, then the bear comes out. All right. Or if Israel does it, all right, because if USA takes too long, usually it's just it's Israel doing it first, all right. So but if Israel does it, then you know, guess what? The war restarts, man. And now then you're gonna have Babylon the Great coming to Israel's aid, all right. But then you're also going to have Russia coming to Iran's aid, man. All right, and we know that Russia is going to be the main player in Bible prophecy to take part in Babylon the Great's destruction. Okay. All right. Now this next topic, I don't really have the topics labeled, but this next topic is really about the 10 horns hating the whore. All right. So as you can see, this short is titled "President Donald Trump may tariff countries that don't go along with his Greenland plan." So this not smart president, this idiot president, is tariffing, punishing countries that don't go along with his Greenland plan. All right, so I'm gonna play it. All right, and again, we'll get some precepts and so on and so forth.
What are we gonna do about eggs? I said I didn't cause the problem. We inherited a mess, but the prices are coming down. And I may do that for Greenland too. I may put a tariff on countries if they don't go along with Greenland, because we need Greenland for national security. So I may do that. I'll give you a little. I'll take you out of the. In fact,
all right, let's get another video. All right, here it is. Okay, Trump to charge NATO countries against U.S. acquiring Greenland with 10% tariff, man. So this guy is pushing away his allies, man. All right. So I'm gonna play some of it. Fair use, fair use. All right, and well, again, as I've just said, and so on and so forth.
Andrew Dimber, we have a lot to get to, but we begin with some breaking news. President Trump posting on social media moments ago, he's slapping tariffs on NATO allies who are opposed to his plan to acquire Greenland. This as protesters take to the streets of Nuke, Greenland. Demonstrators there participating in a Stop Trump march this afternoon as the White House moves forward with its pressure campaign.
Oh yeah, more uprise of the people too.
To try and take control of the island. ABC's senior White House correspondent Selena Wang joins me now live for more on this. Selena, what do we know about these new tariffs, and what else did the president say in this post?
Yeah, Andrew, so the president making this announcement on social media just moments ago, announcing that the U.S. is going to impose tariffs on these European countries that have rallied to the support of Denmark and Greenland over President Trump's escalating attempts to take control of the Arctic territory. The president saying in his post that these tariffs will go into effect on February 1st and that he'll raise these tariffs to 25% in June unless, quote, a deal is reached for the complete and total purchase of Greenland. Now, this applies to Denmark, Norway, Sweden, France, Germany, the UK, the Netherlands, and Finland. Now, these are top allies of the United States. They are part of the NATO alliance. Remember, Greenland is a territory that has long been controlled by Denmark, which is our NATO ally. These countries also have sent a group of troops to Denmark, again, to Greenland in support for Denmark and Greenland. Now, President Trump has been ramping up his rhetoric around trying to take control of Greenland for several weeks now, and the president has refused to rule out the use of force, though the president is saying in this post that the attempt here is to acquire Greenland. But both Denmark and Greenland have made it very, very clear that Greenland does not want to be under U.S. control and that the territory is not for sale. In the post, the president goes on to say that, quote, these countries who are playing this very dangerous game have put a level of risk in play that is not tenable. Frankly, he says, our allies are rattled. They're deeply concerned about what the president has been saying in the future of this relationship, of this alliance.
All right, so you see that this guy now is putting tariffs on countries, on his own allies that don't agree with him, on him acquiring Greenland. All right, even though Greenland's already their ally. All right, so eventually, guess what? I'm gonna skip. In fact, I'm gonna skip to Obadiah 1:7. All right, this is going to lead to Revelation 17 and 16, but I'll start with Obadiah 1:3-4. All right, but you got this guy. This guy is very stupid with his decisions, his actions, man. All right, because NATO, because how is he gonna, how is NATO gonna be held together if you got the U.S. attacking Greenland? They're gonna turn against the U.S. the United States of America, man. All right, they're because Because who needs enemies with the allies like the USA? Obadiah 1 and 3. The pride of thine heart hath deceived thee. Thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock, whose habitation is high, that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? Okay? Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, and though thou set thy nest among the stars, thence will I bring thee down, saith the Lord Yahweh. Alright? So, it doesn't matter how much Esau exalts himself, man. Alright, the Lord is going to bring him down. And the Lord is going to bring Esau, Edom down. Alright, via nuclear missiles, man. And he's going to even use Esau's own allies to bring down Babylon the Great America. And I'll read this in the NLT. All your allies will turn against you. They will help to chase you from your land. They will promise you peace while plotting to deceive and destroy you. Your trusted friends will set traps for you and you won't even know about it. Alright? So all Esau's allies, are going to betray him, man. Revelation 17 and 16. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. And these 10 horns are talking about the EU nations, but this also applies to the NATO nations as well. Alright, because you got Trump being very stupid with how he's acting towards his allies, man. So, it's going to lead to this. Alright, soon enough, these nations already hate America, but soon enough, it's going to lead to this, man. Alright. They're also going to be one of those nations that have those nuclear missiles and shoot against Babylon the Great America. Okay. And we can see that the Lord is using Trump to speed this up massively. Alright. So now let's get Isaiah 19:4. Okay. And the Egyptians will I give over into the hand of a cruel Lord. And this is talking about spiritual Sodom and Egypt, aka Babylon the Great America. Okay. And a fierce king shall rule over them, saith the Lord Yahweh of hosts. Alright. And we believe Trump to be that cruel Lord. Alright. So we believe him to fulfill this prophecy. Okay. Let's go into the word cruel. Hard, cruel, severe, obstinate, hard, difficult, severe, fierce, intense, vehement, stubborn, stiff of neck, stiff-necked. Alright, let's go into the word obstinate. Stubbornly refusing to change one opinion or chosen course of action despite attempts to persuade one to do so. And, well, we can see that Trump is very obstinate when it comes to Greenland. Alright. Very obstinate, man. Alright. And these allies, they're trying to persuade him to not do it. But this guy is so stubborn, he wants to do it, man. Even if it puts the NATO in jeopardy, man. Alright. And verse 2. Okay. Because, again, now this is going to be a kind of an abrupt jump into another topic, but right now you got these ICE protests going on. All right, you got people divided. All right, you got the country, the United States of America, divided against each other, man. All right, and you got Trump through his policies, his and his beliefs. All right, his so-called morals. All right, about what ICE does, man. All right, you got people that are pretty much being fed up with that, man. All right, and all of this is eventually going to lead to Isaiah 19:2. And the Egyptians and I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight everyone against his brother, and everyone against his city, city against city, and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. So again, this is talking about Americans, man. And we can see that there's a very clear divide. You got Trump, pretty much being very bold, with how he acts, okay, towards his so-called enemies. All right. His enemies, okay, and you got him being very obstinate about ICE, all right, about ICE doing its thing, okay. So then you got people against him. You got people against him and his policies, which eventually, that's going to lead to sedition among men, an uprising and civil war, okay. All right. And eventually, through his policies, people are going to have enough, and this is eventually going to lead to a civil war, okay. Because again, people are mourning, man. People and his policies are not helping. All right, this cruel Lord. People are gonna eventually have enough against the cruel Lord, which is it's going to lead to an uprising, sedition among men. And you're gonna have the people against the government, which is civil war. All right, and you're gonna have people that are gonna be for the government and against the government, and so on and so forth. Okay. Now let's get Amos 8 and 11. All right. Because again, you got NSPM-7. All right. And this one, pretty old article, but, Trump's NSPM-7 labels common beliefs as terrorism indicators. Okay, so I'll read this heading and then I'll just kind of skip down. New directive targets anti-Christian, anti-American, and anti-capitalism opinions. Okay. All right, so I'll skip down to, you know, here, in NSPM-7, Countering Domestic Terrorism and Organized Political Violence, President Trump directs the Justice Department, the FBI, and other national security agencies and departments to fight his version of political violence in America, retooling a network of joint terrorism task forces to focus on leftist political violence in America. This vast counterterrorism army, made up of federal, state, and local agents, would, as Trump aide Stephen Miller said, form the central hub of that effort. Okay. NSPM-7 directs a new national strategy to disrupt any individual or groups that foment political violence, including before they result in violent political acts. In other words, they're targeting pre-crime, to reference Minority Report. Okay. So pretty much targeting pre-crime. The Trump administration isn't only targeting organizations or groups, but even individuals and entities whom NSPM-7 says can be identified by any of the following indicators of violence. So what are some of these? Okay, let's see. Anti-Americanism, and this automatically, the truth is obviously anti-America, because, well, we prophesied that America, Babylon the Great, will be destroyed for its wickedness, man. All right, her sins have reached up to heaven, man. All right, we prophesied that Esau, Edom, and that all these heathen nations, but mainly Esau, Edom, is going to go into slavery. All right, we prophesied that his kingdom is going to be cast down, and that we, the Israelites, the so-called Negroes, Hispanics, Latinos, Native Americans, are going to rule planet Earth. Okay, and also the whole universe. All right, the many mansions. Okay, we prophesied that. We prophesied that he's going to be a slave, and that after 1,000 years, he's going to be exterminated off the face of the earth. Okay, or anywhere else he may be. All right. So, and let's keep on reading on. All right, so these are indicators of violence. So pretty much, people with this are going to be labeled as domestic terrorists. And so let's keep on reading though. Anti-capitalism, anti-Christianity, support for the overthrow of the United States government, extremism on migration, extremism on race, extremism on gender, hostility towards those who hold traditional American views on family, hostility towards those who hold traditional American views on religion, and hostility towards those who hold traditional American views on morality. All right, and most of this is pretty vague anyways. All right, it's not like most of this is pretty warpable. All right, you also can kind of stretch it out, stretch it in, so on and so forth, to include, a large group of people, man. All right, but the true prophets of the Lord are also going to be included. All right. The true prophets and also the believers, but mainly the prophets, are going to be labeled as domestic terrorists, man. Okay. Gonna be labeled as enemy of the state. Okay, domestic terrorists, man, and that's where that persecution comes in. Okay, but also that famine of the word, and we'll say in 11. Behold, the days come, saith the Lord power, that I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water, but of hearing the words of the Lord Yahweh. And they shall wander from sea to sea, and from the north even to the east. They shall run to and fro to seek the word of the Lord Yahweh, and shall not find it. Okay? In that day shall the very virgins and young men faint for thirst. Okay? Because the Lord is getting ready to take his prophets off the street. All right? The Lord is getting ready to take his prophets off the street, man. Because again, oh yeah, you also have martial law too, getting ready to come. You got Trump threatening that. All right, the devil's gonna come down with great wrath. Okay, you're gonna have that too. All right, but now you also have ICE going door to door as well. All right, but so like I lost my train of thought. All right, but this time is going to be chaotic, man. All right, the Lord is going to protect his elect, and he's going to protect his prophets, man. All right, and he's gonna have the mouth cleave to the roof of their tongue, man. All right, so that the prophets are no longer going to be a reprover to the nation of Israel, man. All right, because they're rebellious. So like I forgot when I wanted to get. Let's see. But yeah, this is going to lead to a famine of the word, and the word is very important for knowledge and wisdom. Are the stability of our is going to be the stability of our times, man. So it's imperative that you get this word. Okay. All right. So, but now let's get Revelation 12 and 12. All right, because again, you got ICE. You got Esau, Trump. Pretty much threatening to declare the Insurrection Act, which is pretty much martial law. All right, when that happens, Esau, Edom is going to come down with great wrath. All right. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. All right. So again, Esau, Edom is getting ready to come down with very great wrath, man. Especially when that martial law is declared. Okay, when the Bible says that they shall be like madmen sparing none. And another topic of prophecy that the Lord is using Trump to help fulfill is that MOTB. All right, because you got Trump working with Elon Musk at first, who was obviously the owner of Neuralink, and you also got Trump setting up the stable coin, man. All right, which is a digital currency, and we know that digital currency will be an essential part of this new world order, this new system, this beast system, man. All right, this digital beast system that they're getting ready to set up. Okay, all right, in which that MOTB, which is the microchip implant, all right, is going to be pretty much, your way of getting that money, all right, because again, with all these AIs taking the jobs, what makes you think there's going to be jobs, man? So they're going to have a universal basic income with that MOTB, that microchip implant, more specifically the RFID microchip and the Neuralink, all right, and we hope that Trump is that president that is going to declare that, Mark of the Beast is made mandatory. All right, but I'm probably just gonna close out with this 216 and 68. For behold, the burning wrath of a great multitude is kindled over you, and they shall take away certain of you and feed you, being idle with things offered unto idols, and they that consent unto them shall be had in derision and in reproach and trodden under foot. For there shall be in every place and in the next cities a great insurrection upon those that fear the Lord. All right, so again, there's going to be a burning wrath of a great multitude kindled over you. All right, they're going to take certain of you and feed you with things offered unto idols. All right, and that thing offered unto idols is the MOTB. Okay, let's keep on reading. For there shall be in every place and in the next cities a great insurrection, no uprising against authority, in which the Israelites are the ultimate authority on the earth. We're meant to be, but right now, we're in these chains of darkness. But the Lord is getting ready to free us out of that. A great insurrection upon those that fear the Lord. They shall be like madmen, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord. And that's really all the Israelites, man, because all Israelites have at least some semblance of fear of the fear of the Lord in their spirit, man. Okay. They shall be like madmen, sparing none. Guess what you see? You see ICE, sparing none. They're not sparing Edomite women. They're not sparing children. They're pepper spraying babies. All right. They don't care. All right, and it's only going to get crueler and crueler and worse. Okay, they shall be like madmen, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord. For they shall waste and take away their goods and cast them out of their houses. Okay, and you notice how we believe Trump to be Nero in the reincarnation. Nero also persecuted the Israelites as well. All right, so that persecution is getting ready to come back, but just on an even bigger scale, man. All right. For they shall waste and take away their goods, and cast them out of their houses. Then shall they be known who are my chosen, and they shall be tried as the gold in the fire. Hear, O ye my beloved, saith the Lord, behold, the days of trouble are at hand, but I will deliver you from the same. Be ye not afraid, neither doubt, for the Most High is your guide. And the guide of them will keep my commandments and precepts, saith the Lord power. Let not your sins weigh you down, and let not your iniquities lift up themselves. All right, so trust in the Lord. All right, but overall, the Lord is using Donald J. Trump to really help fulfill prophecy, man. All right, the Lord is using Donald Trump to help fulfill prophecy. He may say we're not going to have a World War III if we're smart, but the Lord says otherwise. All right, first off, you're not very smart in the first place. Second off, does the Lord care if you're smart? Because at the end of the day, the Lord controls everything. All right, and the Lord's counsel will always stand. All right, so with that, the Lord's also pretty much using Trump to help fulfill the prophecy of, Jacob's trouble. All right, we are in Jacob's trouble right now. We're just in the beginning stages of it, man. All right, but the Lord's using Trump to help speed that up massively. All right, massively and massively. Okay, to where these devils are going to be sparing nobody, especially you Israelites. All right, but with that, Lord willing, that was edifying. All right, Lord willing, the point, you got the point across. All right. But with that, I want to give all the praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. Shalom wa abad babal. Shalom.